On behalf of everyone at WNET, congratulations to Steve Adubato and the Caucus Educational Corporation on 25 great years of broadcasting.
Hi, I'm Larry Nespoli with the New Jersey Council of County Colleges. At New Jersey's community colleges, we believe that our students, as well as all citizens, need to be informed about the important issues facing higher education. That's why we're proud to support programming produced by the Caucus Educational Corporation and their partners in public television.
This special edition of One-on-One with Steve Adubato is brought to you from the Tisch WNET studios at Lincoln Center. Funding has been provided by Hackensack University Health Network, NJ Best, New Jersey's 529 College Savings Plan, turn a dream into a degree, TD Bank, Horizon Blue Cross Blue Shield of New Jersey, New Jersey Manufacturers Insurance Group, auto insurance, homeowners insurance, and banking under the principle of stewardship. Cohn Resnick, providing accounting, tax, and advisory services for more than 90 years. And by PSE&G, committed to improving New Jersey's economy and strengthening its communities. Promotional support provided by the Star Ledger, powering NJ.com.
This is One-on-One.
When you first heard that they were doing Charlie Rose and Gayle King, didn't you go, what?
People like laughing at others, so I don't mind if the other is me.
See, you go right into the character. That's what it is.
I'm bringing families together a half an hour each week. Man, I'm doing something special.
And so I do feel successful.
As a kid, I discovered filmmaking. This was me 5 years ago, making documentary films and traveling the world. And then I was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis.
When you feel down, think of other countries, other people.
I get a film grant and take off for India. Maybe I can find something here to make me better. But I'm getting worse so fast, I feel like my time is running out.
Powerful stuff, written, put together by a director. His name is Jason DaSilva. It's called When I Walk. Welcome to our studio.
Thank you very much.
Wow, you got a hell of a story, man.
Thanks a lot. Yeah.
First of all, welcome to our studio. It's an honor to have you. Let me see if I can get a couple pieces of information out here, and you tell me if I'm wrong. In 2004, as a filmmaker, you told folks you were, quote, living like a rock star.
That's right.
Your stuff was being seen at HBO, Sundance.
Yeah.
Things are going well, right?
2001, I had my first film ever in Sundance.
Yeah.
So things were looking really nice. It was actually on PBS.
Yeah. When you're on PBS, things are good.
Yeah.
You're right?
Yeah.
And then
so I was
something
living the life. I was 25 years old, living the, life in New York City as a 20-year-old is great. But then things changed.
What changed?
So when I was 25 years old, so the next year I was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis. Out of nowhere. I mean, I was like walking up and down the subway stairs a little bit slower. My vision was getting a little bit blurry. Then I went to my doctor, got it checked out, and that's what he came and told me.
First reaction?
First reaction, I was like, whatever.
Come on, you didn't say that.
No, really, I barely knew what MS was. So, I was 25 years old. There's nothing that's going to stop me, right? So I just kept on going. And then the next year, probably, that's when things started getting tough. And then I was walking a little bit slower, I was falling. I went from a cane to a walker to a wheelchair, and that all happened in the course of 3 years or so.
For those who don't know what MS is, describe it.
So it's a neurological disease, so it attacks your brain. So it disconnects basically the nerves in your legs or, different parts of your body from your brain, basically. So there's nothing wrong with my body. I'm in a wheelchair, but there's nothing wrong. It's the connections. That's the frustrating thing. Yeah.
But the decision you made to chronicle your journey, was it yours alone?
Yeah. I worked on 5 films before this one, and it took me 2 years to gain the courage to flip the camera around and turn on myself and just start filming what I was going through. There was a point in time where I was like, you know what, the crazy stuff that I'm seeing in real life is something that could be a story that people will be able to learn from and, take and parallel it with their own challenges as well.
Where does your wife, Alice, is it?
Alice,
How does she fit into this story?
So I met Alice actually while I was filming the story. So in 2010 we met, and we met at an MS support group. And lo and behold, it was bizarre. You know, you'll have to see the movie to see it, but she became a thriving part of the film. And yeah, she's my wife, so we got married in the film, and then we went on, and yeah, there's a little surprise ending towards the end.
Is that in the East Village?
Yeah, no, that's in, it's in the East Village. It was a block from my house. It's in the St. Mark's Church.
Beautiful.
Yeah, so we literally just walked a block and got married.
I love it. Let me ask you this. As a filmmaker, before you were diagnosed, compare it to the process of filmmaking now. How different is it?
It's very different, because so before, I was the director, I was the shooter, I was the editor, I found the right people for music, I did everything. I was the producer. You know what it's like to all of a sudden flip and be the director, but every element is out of your control, really. There's only so much they can do when you're like, yeah, so I'm on camera, but just take the camera and move it over there. Try bringing the camera down a little bit. So all of a sudden you have like 30 people shoot for you, and you have to try and find some consistency between them.
How about the editing process?
And then the editing process is the same. So I had about 6 editors on this film. So I would edit a bit, work with somebody else, edit a bit more, work with somebody else. So it just kept on going back and forth for 7 years.
7 years to do this?
Yeah.
To what degree do people around you who knew you before you were diagnosed as this dynamo, this guy, your words, not mine, living like a rock star, treat you differently?
Yeah, that's a good question, and it's like a little bit tough to answer. But so imagine, I was 25 when I was diagnosed. I'm 35 now. So imagine, like, in your 20s, all of a sudden your best friend or your friend gets a debilitating disease. Are you going to stick around? So, you know, I watched as my friends kind of like, some of them disappeared because maybe they're fair with their friends. But I watched as they disappeared. Some people stuck around, but, you know, the people that stuck around are my good friends. So, but I watched as my friend count went from 100 to about 10. That's
did you learn, it's funny, did you learn, you've learned a lot about other people, but this is a cliche question, but I have to ask anyway, because I want to know, and I have a feeling other people want to know.
Yeah.
How much have you learned about yourself?
I learned a lot about myself in this whole process. The one thing that I find that I learned about myself, which I kind of knew before, but I didn't realize how much I was resilient. So I learned that, you know, there's a lot that can happen to a person, and there's a lot that happened to me, but I was able to stick through the whole process.
You're tough.
Yeah, tough.
You know, when you're around people who complain, I'm around people, we're all around people. I complain about stupid stuff.
Yeah.
And then I'm around people who complain about stuff that's even dumber.
Yeah.
You know? And I'm always aware of the complaining that I think is worse than my complaining.
Oh, that's good.
Right? Well, yeah, trust me, but mine's bad. So here's my point. How much tolerance do you have for the absurd complaining about stuff that clearly doesn't matter?
Yeah, that's a good question. So
listen, I have good questions. I have no answers. I just want to clarify that for you. But I am curious about that because I wonder why it takes for some people, and I'm not saying this is you. You might have had this perspective before. I have no idea. But for many, we do overreact to really pretty dumb stuff.
Okay,
it's just not important.
So I thought a lot about this. So here's my answer. I was diagnosed when I was 25. I lived up until I was 25 being that same exact person.
You?
Yeah.
That wasn't you.
That was me. I was just like, whatever. The subway doors closed too early. I could have gotten there. Whatever. Like, they're not serving my bagel and coffee on time. So I have a certain level of patience is the word, but also like it's kind of funny to me that people kind of grovel over the most minute things. But
will you laugh about it?
Yeah, I laugh about it. But I laugh with the perspective that I have now. So I laugh a little bit afar from, you know, I don't go up to the people that have something simple that they're arguing about. I'm like, you really shouldn't be arguing about that.
You won't lecture? You will
What's
not
that?
lecture people.
No, I wouldn't do that, but I let them, it's their fun, it's part of life.
Talk about your mom and your relationship with her. How supportive?
Yes.
Why are you laughing when I say that?
Because that's a weird answer to answer. She's well, it's weird because I don't find her 100% supportive. Like she's not that typical supportive mom that you would expect. She's actually really tough on me at times. But she's one of those mothers that sees both sides of the coin. And it is really part of the reason why I am here today and doing well today, is she kind of gave me that, what's the best word? It's like tough love. She gave me that tough love thing. Yeah.
Real quick, Paula, throw a clip up. I don't want Jason to talk about it. Throw the clip up. Let's do it.
Hi, my name is Jason, and I use a scooter to get around. It's not so easy. I have trouble going to stores, finding bathrooms that are accessible, and meeting up with friends. Of course, I can call ahead, but many places say they're accessible, but really, they're not. There has to be a better way. So I had an idea. What if everyone could share all the accessible places they know? And what if all this was put on one map? And that map was available on the web and mobile phones.
You are an advocate. This is the Access Map?
Yeah, that's right.
Talk about it.
Yeah, so Access Map, I created that in 2012. I had the idea to create it back in 2007. So the problem was I wasn't a computer programmer. So I had to hire the right people. I had to get married to Alice, and she helped me out.
You had to get married to Alice for this to happen.
Yeah, that was in 2010. So it took a while.
Right.
What
does this thing do?
So it's part of like Google. So any place on Google is on our map, but it allows people, it's a whole new rating system. So it allows people to go in and rate all the places that are wheelchair accessible. Be it like a coffee shop, a restaurant, whatever is on Google is available on there. So, and the cool thing about it, it's a whole new database. This data doesn't exist. I would find places that, like the video showed, I would find places that I would go to a restaurant with friends, or I'd go to a coffee shop, and all of a sudden I'd get there and there was a step or two, and my night of fun was over. So,
did you find these places yourself? Did you do most of this research?
You mean
like find what worked, what didn't work, what people needed to know about?
Yeah. So I thought about it for 5 years. So I thought about like how to serve the community best, I guess.
It's a great map.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Great service.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah.
Sometimes you keep saying, hey, someone ought to do this, and you realize that someone is you.
Exactly.
I'm glad you've done that, and I'm glad you're doing what you're doing. You are the director of this film called When I Walk. And listen, to say you are an inspiration to other people is such a ridiculous understatement. All I know is that you've been a great guest.
Thank you.
I've enjoyed listening to you and learning from you. And you're welcome back anytime in our studio.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thanks a lot.
We appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Jason DaSilva, right?
Yep.
This guy's good. We'll be back right after this. Thank you very much.
If you would like more information on this program, or if you'd like to express an opinion, email us at info@caucusnj.org. Visit us online at oneonone.org, or find us on Facebook at facebook.com/Steve Adubato, PhD.
Edie Lutnick is the author of An Unbroken Bond, the untold story of how the 658 Cantor Fitzgerald families faced the tragedy of 9/11 and beyond. Good to have you with us.
Thank you so much, Steve.
It's an honor to have you here. It is an untold story about something people think they know a lot about. They hear Cantor Fitzgerald. They don't. Wasn't that the firm down in World Trade Center, and terrible things happened? You're very directly connected to that firm. It's a family connection. Describe it.
So my brother Howard is the chairman and the CEO of Cantor Fitzgerald. My brother Gary was a senior executive at Cantor. I was a labor lawyer. On September the 10th, my brother Howard had given me space in their offices, which were the 101st to the 105th floor of One World Trade Center. And my brother Gary, unfortunately, on September 11th was at work. along with 657 of his friends and colleagues who were above the impact of the plane. And so they all perished. And so on September the 13th, my brother Howard said, Edie, I want to start a charity to take care of these families, and I'd like you to run it. And
just right immediately?
Immediately, within 48 hours. You know, the firm was in rubble. Maybe 200 people that my brother had hired personally had perished, including his best friend. We didn't know how many people we had lost. Initially, we thought it was going to be well over 800. And but my brother knew that he wanted to help these families. And I learned very quickly that, you know, if these people were in the kind of pain that I was in, because we had lost our parents young, and so I raised my brother Gary.
You raised him?
I raised him. So he was my brother, but he was also like my child. And so if other families were in the kind of pain that I was in, I had to try to help them. And so we started the Relief Fund to take care of the families that lost loved ones on 9/11.
That's actually a picture of you behind you, a picture of you and your brother.
Yeah. Wasn't he handsome?
Very handsome.
Yes.
Very handsome. Here's what a lot of us, I'm sure, are trying to make sense of. You're dealing with this extraordinary, unbelievable, hard to imagine personal tragedy. But then your brother Howard says, and we want you to lead this effort. How is it that you step back and get the perspective, the strength, the courage to do what it is you have been doing all this time, particularly back then?
You know, that's actually a very difficult question to answer. I mean,
do you even know the answer?
Probably not. I mean, we had lost our parents when we were younger. And so because of that loss, and our family was not there for us, the family surrounding us. And so we relied very heavily on each other, and we knew, you know, the way that Howard puts it is we knew what hell looked like.
That's you and Howard right there.
And we wanted,
yeah.
And we wanted other families to not have to go through what we went through if there was any way that we could make it easier for them. And the irony is that I think by helping these families through the Cantor Fitzgerald Relief Fund and coming up with a model that worked to help them heal and took a sea of strangers and turned them into a community, it not only helped them, but it helped me.
How?
Because I think that in the face of tragedy, whether it's personal or public or, you know, large or small, that the reality is that if you can find something larger than yourself to focus on, it will not only help you heal, but you will be able to do great things in the world. And I think by focusing on the Cantor Fitzgerald Relief Fund, which was going to take care of these families, it allowed me to really look at something larger than just my own grief. And that was something that we found over and over again that works. There are hundreds and hundreds of philanthropic organizations that have come out of the 9/11 community, not to address the issues of 9/11, but to address the problems of the world.
Right.
And dedicating themselves to those type of endeavors have really has allowed our families to heal.
The fund that was created to help those families, to create this family, this bigger family, what do most of those families need? What have they needed for all these years?
You know, it was very interesting. So in this country, we used to give out services. If you were below the poverty line, you could get a financial distribution, but otherwise we tried to figure out what the services were. And we learned very quickly that every family actually needs different things. Everybody processes grief differently. Everybody goes through tragedy and trauma differently. And you need different things for your family. And so what we decided was that we were going to give money directly to each family. I wasn't going to play Solomon. I wasn't going to decide what each family needed. I was going to give each family the money so that they could decide what was right for them. Because maybe you needed to send your child to camp. Maybe you needed to hold your child as close as you possibly could. Maybe you needed therapy. Maybe you needed to get out of town. So maybe you needed to pay your bills. Maybe you needed, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So every family needed something different. And so we said, you know what? Every life is precious. Every life is equal. We're going to give the same amounts of money. We're going to raised the money. Cantor Fitzgerald made a commitment they were going to give 25% of their profits for 5 years and 10 years of health care. And that ultimately resulted in $180 million to our 658 families.
$180 million for 658 families.
Yeah.
That'll help make a family tighter.
And you know what? The thing for me was that, 9/11 is the backdrop for the story. But the thing about 9/11 and the thing about my book, An Unbroken Bond, and it's a larger story than that. It's what are the things that we can learn from what happened in 9/11 so that we can apply it going forward in the way that we look at what our behavior was. What were the obstacles that the 9/11 families faced? How did we behave as individuals, as corporations, as communities, as politicians, as governments, as societies, as religions? What did we do? What can we learn from this? What can we take away?
You know, it's so interesting to me that I knew about you, the work you were doing, but our mutual friend Annette Catino over in New Jersey.
She's the best.
She's a board member of our production company, the Caucus Educational Corporation, and they recommend guests, and she recommended you. She's a CEO who thinks about leadership a lot. And she said this was in many ways about a lot of things, but also about leadership, right?
I think so.
How is this about leadership?
I think that we had to be entrepreneurial. I think that Cantor Fitzgerald and the Cantor Fitzgerald Relief Fund are a story about a company and a charity that were married around a single mission, and that mission was to take care of these families any way that they possibly could. And that we then looked to what the families needed, and we took our agenda from that. Because what happens a lot of times is that people don't listen. They don't actually listen to what it is that the people who are in need.
But they decide for them.
They decide for them. And we said we're not going to do that. And so we created this model, whether it was how we gave our money out directly, and we looked outside the box to be able to do that. So if you called and you had a problem, we knew that that problem applied to so many other people that we needed to chase that down. So you had a 14-year-old who was putting his fist through a wall because he was being killed with kindness, because everyone was saying, you're the man of the family now.
Because he lost his dad.
You need to take care of your mother.
Because his dad's gone.
Correct. You need to be strong for her. And so he's reacting with anger because he has no place to express his grief. And we sat back and said, right, we need to find programs where 14-year-olds can do martial arts. So no matter what it was, the financial part of it, sure, but it was looking at the person as a whole and running that down, and then trying to say, okay, how can we apply this to other charities and disasters?
Edie, why did you decide to write this book?
I gave a speech.
You give a lot of speeches.
I do.
People ask you to come and talk to them, and they're looking for inspiration and strength, and they expect you to give it. By the way, before you go any further, describe what you have right there.
Oh, my heart. So the first time I ever actually gave a speech, my first real public speech, was actually my brother Gary's memorial service. And at my memorial service, I said that my heart was in 3 pieces. 1/3 of it was mine to do with what I wanted, and I gave that to Louis, who's my other half. 1/3 belonged to my brother Howard, and 1/3, which is broken but never severed, belonged to my brother Gary. And Louis is an artist, and so he made me my broken heart, which I wear all the time. And sometimes what we've learned is that it takes a broken heart to heal a broken heart. And so my ability and Howard's ability to understand what our families needed was huge. And once we were able to get them to a place where they were stable, we started thinking about what was their legacy. And so one of the things that I speak about when I go and I give speeches, of course, both on, an Unbroken Bond and about Cantor's story and our story, but on resilience, on how you get through a trauma and a tragedy. Because the reality is, I'm here. I'm here. And this happened to me, and I was just a person. And, you know, and it's about leadership, and it's about thinking outside of the box and how you can help people and what you can do in your own community. You know, one of the things that we've now looked at is...
By the way, excuse me, I want to make sure I let folks know, you vet websites.
I do have websites.
Put that up, the information there. That part, I know we're running out of time, but I want to make sure you get a chance to say that. How do you let people know who does what and why?
Okay, so we have two websites.
Yes.
So we have www.cantorrelief.org, where you can donate to the Cantor Fitzgerald Relief Fund. And our projects are that we give direct financial aid to victims of terrorism, natural disasters, and emergencies. So we gave a $10 million program in Sandy. We went into Oklahoma after the tornado. We're helping the victims' families from Sandy Hook as they approach their one-year anniversary, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. We also, in addition to that, have started a website called IHaveNeverHeardOfYou.com.
That was up there too, go ahead.
Because one of the things that I've learned in my speaking is that people don't know about the grassroots charities in their area that do great works. And so this website is going to try to give a voice to those charities, because 86% of our charitable dollars only go to 1% of the charities.
Edie, I wish we had more time.
Me too.
Because not only do you have more to say, but we have more to learn. But I cannot thank you enough. The book is called An Unbroken Bond, and we have a bond with you, and I cannot thank you for joining our public television family.
Thank you so much.
One on One with Steve Adubato has been a production of the Caucus Educational Corporation, celebrating 25 years of broadcast excellence in partnership with St. Joseph's Healthcare System. Funding has been provided by Barnabas Health, Berkeley College, the law firm of Gibbons PC, United Water, Wells Fargo, Verizon Communications, and by New Jersey Natural Gas. Transportation provided by Airbrook Limousine, serving the metropolitan New York, New Jersey area. One on One with Steve Adubato has been made possible in part by the Adler Aphasia Center.
Hi, I'm Governor Tom Kean. A dear friend of mine had aphasia, which is a language disorder that occurs from a brain injury or a stroke. It robs a person's ability to communicate, but it doesn't affect their intellect. Programs and services offered at the Adler Aphasia Center help to improve my friend's communication skills, as well as her self-confidence and quality of life. Most importantly, she was among people who understood her. If you or a loved one has been diagnosed with aphasia, there is hope.